like. I
like this porn movie.
Isn't it great?
The woman here before was before you. I don't know whether you've ever seen her.
Oh, August. Yeah, she's actually been a guest on my show.
The Girl Boner.
Yes, Girl Boner.
Yeah.
Yeah, August McLaughlin. She's wonderful. It's a great show. How did you?
I was out in the lobby and I was hearing.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah. I know nothing about her.
She's really, really sweet and has been doing shows here at Global Voice Broadcasting for, for a while. For a while. Oh, hi. Welcome to All Over Voiceover with Kip VH. This is your host, Kip VH, and I am joined in studio by the lovely, the talented Andrew Heyl. Heyl, right?
Heyl, it doesn't matter. Say whatever
Heyl,
you want. Just hire me. Who gives a shit?
Dude, we've known each other for maybe, 3-4 years? When did you start working over at Voicecaster?
I've only been working there for maybe a year and a half.
Oh, really?
But we've known each other through other stuff.
Yeah.
And certainly see each other in the audition hallways.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Different casting houses and whatnot. So,
how long have you been here in Los Angeles? Are you from native? Well,
I have been here since '88, so coming up on 30 years, I guess.
Oh, man.
Long time, man.
Where are you from originally?
I'm a Jersey boy.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. Were you doing this stuff there as well, or did you start this
Well,
work?
I came out to L.A. like every moronic 20-year-old to be famous.
Right.
And have a career in acting. And I realized that I liked money a lot more than the craft. So, so I drifted away from it. And, I went in and out of it between commercial, between on-stage stuff. I drifted in and out of it, and I just realized that corporate America treated me better as far as affording me a life that I wanted.
Yeah.
And, so I kind of slowly let that dream die. It was painful. It was a painful dream, killer.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the story, I don't want to reveal the name of the book that I want to write because I don't want to give that away to too many people, but I'll tell you off mic.
Okay.
So in 2000, I started to do a little more on-camera stuff again, and I just realized I just didn't like the on-camera community. I just didn't.
What brought you back to on-camera after sort of?
When you feel like you've gone away from something, when you feel like something that the one thing that you love doing, right?
Yeah.
The one thing that you feel like you're able to do, the one thing that you wake up for.
Yeah.
It's hard to find that in life. And for some people, it's philanthropic. Mm-hmm. For some people, they're just like my one brother-in-law, he's a numbers guy. And he was just born with that analytical brain that just makes him a ton of money through what he does. So I missed it. I wanted it. It was a creative outlet. And it was the only thing that I knew.
Yeah.
So, I know you know what that's like.
I absolutely do. It's a thing. If you do, especially because the marketplace is changing so rapidly, so constantly.
Yeah.
Like I had gone into multimedia programming or producing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing interactive training in Toledo, Ohio for a better part of 4 or 5 years. Timeline's a little off, but roughly.
Yeah.
And the skill set that I got was great, and it helped me doing this work. But when I started working at Second City, it was a full-time equity job, and I did that for a year and a half, and then I went to another place. And just being out of the traditional workforce for 2.5 years,
mm-hmm.
I couldn't crack back in.
Well, so for me, it was the other way around. I was in the corporate world and pretty deeply embedded into it. And making.
Can you say what you were doing or where you were?
Well, I ran the gamut.
Okay.
I worked in anywhere from marketing for nursing homes.
Uh-huh.
Then I got involved in a company that does wound care, and then a company that produced a wound care device, so medical device sales. Mm-hmm. And then I'll share this. In my life, I've been laid off 3 times.
Yeah.
Not fired, laid off. I did get fired from a bartending job, and I was happy about that. I don't give a shit about that, but I had it coming. And it was they were well within their rights. Let me put it that way. I had been laid off just too many times, 3 times, and you get caught into this corporate cycle.
Yes.
And it was killing me inside because I was doing well. I did well with it. I enjoyed doing it for the most part. Got laid off, and then I ended up coming back to one of the other companies that I was with previously in a pretty huge in a national contracting position. I mean, wow. I tell people, I was creating and designing and having signatures from healthcare companies, and it was very literal, $40 million contracts. I mean, so it was really a big deal, and it was enjoyable. I really liked it, but it was still corporate America.
Yeah,
and we could see the writing on the wall, where and I'm tying in. I'll tie all this back.
That's all right.
So I'll try not to bore the living hell out of you.
Dude, I've walked right alongside you in an adjacent. Mine was programmable logic controllers.
There you go.
So I'm right there with you. But like, no matter what it is you're producing, selling, training on, developing, either the stuff comes out and then it's like, oh, you're still here, or that was at least my situation. But, I'm
right.
With you.
So the same thing, right? So I was doing some voiceover in about 2000, I should say. About 2000, I started getting interested in it and understanding a little bit about it. Trained with Terry Apple, and then Mark Cashman came along, and it was really, then where I started to get passionate about it. About 5 years later, I started getting really into it.
Yeah.
And making a run at getting agencies and things like that. And I'm like, I wish I could make a living at this. And my biggest problem with our industry is it is being presented as the gold rush. It is the gold rush. Like, so everybody thinks, okay, I'm going to go to California, or I'm going to go wherever. I'm going to buy a microphone, and I'm going to make a living, and I'm going to be wealthy. And it's something I'll talk to you about in a second. So anyway, I was laid off after getting taken on with some regional agents, and then with DPN here in LA, and I was booking some pretty sizable stuff. Not enough to make me feel like I could walk away from corporate America. But then I saw writing on the wall. I was with a company that you could see it was dying. We knew that our department was at high risk, and everything was, defend your job. Hey, it's Sunday. We need you to send an email to show us what you've done. In other words, defend yourself to us nonstop. So it was a year of that.
Oh, God.
And I was telling my wife at the time, back then, I was saying, look, I can't keep doing this. She's like, well, then leave. I'm like, well, why don't I wait until they get rid of me? Because I know it's good. They're going to get rid of my department. I'm very good at predicting that stuff. We're seeing it. And I said, I don't know whether I want to get another job. She goes, don't. See, she's always been terrific for me because she, like you, like all of talent, we don't know whether we have what it takes, but the people around us, somehow they know.
Yeah.
So I got laid off that time, and I made the decision not to go looking for another job. And I had a severance package, so everything, was helpful. And I did have a decent amount of union work that was paying the bills. And I took the step off the bridge. I just stepped off. I'm like, this is it. I'm going to make this decision. And like you were saying, there is a point of no return.
Yeah.
If you go too long without being in a field, well, you become obsolete.
Right.
So that fear hung with me for about 2.5 years. And I had to let go of that. I had to say, you know what? I am, by all power, I am a full-time voice actor.
Yeah.
And I did everything that I could to make that happen. I paid dues like everybody else has to.
Yeah.
By year 4, I said to Debbie, my wife, I said, my God, I'm doing it. We are doing it. I'm actually making a living at this. She goes, yeah, I know. Like, duh. Now I'm able to live in it.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So, but I only tell that story because I know there's a lot of people in our shoes
that,
they're bartending or they're doing whatever. They're working in any number of jobs. They'll know when it's time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They'll know when the time comes, and they'll know when they will be able to do this and call themselves a full-time voice actor.
It's one thing to pull your rickety dream off a ramp when it's just you, and when you are, when your family is in tow, there's that sense of, I talk about this all the time with my wife, or with in particular people who are becoming new parents, where it's like, I remember when, right before the baby was born, standing there at Swedish Covenant Hospital in Chicago, where my wife is, high-risk pregnancy. We didn't know it was high risk until the water broke 2 months early. And there she is sitting there, screaming, "This is a madhouse."
Yeah.
And I say to one of the nurses, "I don't care what happens, you save my wife." And when the baby comes, the sudden turn of, "I don't care what happens, you save that baby."
Wow.
And it was a physiological transformation that happened. And then the feeling of doing this work, especially like for us in Chicago when that hit. I mean, I'd been doing everything from working at the Wisconsin State Fair cleaning rings to product specialty work for Volvo and Mazda and whoever would have me. Still work out of Detroit.
Yeah.
But that day the baby came, I had my first meeting with innovative artists in Chicago. And within 3 weeks, I had booked a KFC national spot.
That's terrific.
Yeah, and it was like someone had said, when the baby comes, so does the money. And it was like, oh.
I hear that, and I don't have any kids, and I always say, I wonder how much more successful I'd have been had I had kids, because the game changes, right? I mean, your priorities change, and there's nothing hedonistic about life anymore. It's not about going out. It's not about you anymore.
Right.
It's about, what do you need to do?
And the interesting thing, the thing that made me nervous the most was, how will that pressure affect the choices I make in the booth? Will I turn even a radio demo into a national campaign in my head based on the pressure of, like, I've got to book this because we're low on formula?
So how does that work for you, though, right? Because, I mean, the pressure is the one thing that kills everybody. I mean, in other words, it kills the artistic nature, and it kills the reality that the presence you're supposed to be in. But do you feel as though that's helped you? I've
gotten to a place in I've got all kinds of bad wiring here and there, but when it comes to going into the room with a microphone, for the most part, for most genres, I'm confident enough in myself that I can say, leave your drama outside. That's not my drama.
Yeah.
I mean, my least favorite thing is when, like, if you're going to go do a corporate show, or you're going to go do a series of spots, and and there's a client present, and someone tries to take their fear and put it on you, the talent, where they go, no pressure. And then you go, why are you putting that into this space? There is no pressure. I don't feel any pressure, because at the end of the day, I'm going to sign my union contract and go home.
And not only that, right? They already hired you.
Yeah.
You already did the hard part.
The hard part is
The hard part's getting the damn job.
That's right.
And then once you're in there, you can kind of breathe and relax. And that doesn't come overnight. Again,
true.
Being over at VoiceCaster, I see some newer talent, and some of them know how to own it. And some of them, they get nervous. It's like, what are you nervous about?
Yeah.
The people that are getting hired are the people that are just not necessarily the term "throw it away." We have a lot of terms now in our industry that are just overused.
Yeah.
Conversational. Like, well, what the fuck does that mean?
Right.
You get the idea of what it means, but you have to be more specific. It's interesting to see how the people that don't put a lot of pressure on themselves, that just kind of do their thing, they seem to be the ones that are working, because they just know how to let traffic, that hour and a half, or the miserable traffic that they drove through to get to an audition, they know how to shake it. It's kind of fun to watch those people. It's very fun to watch the people who just do what they do and they enjoy it.
How has that changed you as a voice actor?
I keep it real simple with my analogy. it has changed my booking ratio personally in a huge way. And the weird part is it's not because I'm trying a deeper technique. I'm not going Stanislavski on stuff. You know what I mean? I'm not overanalyzing. I have a friend of mine, Glenn Steinbaum. He and I agree. You know, we can all these acting techniques can bog you down.
Absolutely.
Like, so they're in your head and they're screwing with you, and you're like, oh, what's my motivation? All that, the typical kind of stuff. What changed for me? I will say, if you are at a level where you're getting called into a casting house and you're with a decent agency who believes in you, who's sending you copy, if you're getting that copy and you're getting it regularly, there's a reason you're getting it. The reason is because you've got something. You've already got what they're looking for. You've beaten the odds. So you can take a deep breath and take the pressure off of you. So where it changed for me was I hear people come in and I'm like, well, they're not doing anything that I'm not doing. They're not anything, we have some incredible talent that come in, but I'm just as relaxed as they are. I'm having as much fun as they are. Mostly, sometimes when you walk in, I should have just saved everybody's time. That was the worst audition I've done in history. We all have those. But in the meantime, you just relax. And if you're in the game, if you're in that casting house and you're behind that microphone and it's not your first time, if you've been there a couple of times, there's a reason. You can relax. All the pressure's off. Once I realized that I'm in the game, once I realized that I get to play in the big leagues, I'm not hoping to get to the minors. I'm not hoping to make AAA.
You're there.
I'm in the majors.
And
I get to play with these people that are astounding, and I get to win some of these jobs. It changed it. I'm like, you know what? I got this. It relaxed me. And when you relax, when you just own your shit in the booth, and I don't mean be cocky. Sometimes it calls for cocky. Sometimes it calls for relax. Sometimes it calls for, apathetic, whatever. But if you just trust yourself and you do you, and you hear it all the time, just do what you do, right? And the good director said, just do what you do. We're bringing you in for that. Once you do you, and once you know who you are, you'll book. And it doesn't matter who you are or what you sound like. It's not about the pipes all the way through. It's about being true to the copy. And it really, that's what changed it for me. And I try to share that with people.
That's great.
It's easy.
That's the disturbing part of it.
It's easy.
Is that it is easy. And that's the part that makes me feel crazy. That it shouldn't be this easy. Why am I having such an easy time with this copy? This seems like so hard. And these other people are saying how torturous it is. And it's just like, no, dude, it's Kurt Russell and me. It's the Kurt Russell swagger that I like to do from time to time, where it's just a little bit Big Trouble in Little China. And how are you not seeing that? Well, that's not their instrument. That's not their reference. That's not their,
I was doing a casting today. I was directing for a casting. It was female reads, and about 5 times I said to different people that were in, I'm like, that was nice, but that was safe. Too safe.
Wow.
Because with me, I don't want you to be safe. Look, if it doesn't work, I'm not going to tell you it stinks, right? It just may be the incorrect choice, right? There are plenty of choices. You make a choice. But don't be safe. Safe isn't booking right now. Safe is not. It's the person who does something quirky. It's the person who makes it their own. It's the person who just gives the producer a light that says, oh, yeah, that works. Because they're writing it one way. Of course, they're using whatever, Dennis Leary or whoever they have in their mind, as a reference. But great, we'll keep the safe read. I'll put it in there because maybe they want that pretty safe read. But take a chance. And I would say that most booth directors out there, they let you do it. And if you make them laugh, look at them. If they're laughing, then you probably did something right. Anyway.
That makes a lot of sense. It's
easier said than done, though, right?
Sure, because you go, well, make a strong choice, and I'll go, all right. Well, how strong is this choice? Is this too strong? Or, and it's all that. It's that same thing about like, it when you hear it,
You know,
I
when
mean,
you hear it.
I was teaching class last night, and we were playing back work that we did the week before. And what I generally do...
That's smart, though, because, I mean, you know, when you sit on it for a while, that's actually... I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I mean, that's a smart way to look at it.
It was helpful.
Come back to it.
Yeah, and I'd never done that, truthfully. We've always kind of been like, let's record, and then we'll play it back and analyze it and talk about the choices you made. And instead... we did a field trip, and the wonderful Josiah over at Patches hung out late and gave these kids an opportunity to see what it's like to walk into an actual studio and have the deafening silence of a quiet room. You know,
let's come back to that in a minute, though, because I want to have that discussion about that first. Yeah.
Yes, and we went back to Second City, and this is where I teach the class, and I was like, so here's our records from last week, and everything we did was. Comic books. So my friend works at DC, and she hooked me up with a ton of great, like, sort of deep catalog new comics.
I wish everybody could see your body language right now. You're like,
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
So I'm handing out this. I'm literally showing you how thick the stack of comics is, and I hand them all out, and they all read. And I want them to do 2 human characters and 1 creature. So they go through and find a character they can read, and they read a snippet. And it's like, look, it's the same as reading video game copy or animation copy. It's essentially for you, it's contentless. You're going to have a second or two to make a decision, and then I'll redirect you. And the difference between listening to take 1 and take 4, and it's so cliche because it's what we just said. You know it when you hear it, but it's like the difference between I hear you reading it. And now I hear you making almost the exact same choices in terms of the music of the line, almost the same choices in terms of who you're talking to. But in this 4th take, I believe that you're actually talking to someone versus take 1 where I believe that you're reading it.
Yeah, and that's, you know, the who are you talking to? For me, that's one of the hardest damn things, like, who are you talking to? Well, I was having this conversation with... one of the Kalmansons. And it was Kathy, and she was a little like, well, she couldn't understand why I didn't understand it. I understand it. But sometimes when copy isn't written in a way that communicates with me, right?
Yeah.
Then I have a hard time making it my own because it's not something I would say. It's not how I would say it. It's not designed in a way I think. So sometimes copy does call to you, right? Sometimes you're like, damn, this is great copy.
Yeah.
I like this copy. And sometimes you just can't polish poop or whatever they call it. You know what I mean? You just,
right.
You know, this young copywriter who's just out of high school apparently has written this thing that they think is the best copy on earth.
Right.
By the way, it's not in my DNA. And if I see that in one more piece of copy, I'm getting on a plane, I'm smacking the copywriter. It's not in my DNA.
What's not your DNA?
The cliche, just the whole cliche of it's in our DNA. Everybody's writing it's in our DNA in every piece of copy now.
Oh man,
yeah.
It's in our DNA.
So it's in my DNA. It's in your DNA.
Yeah, I'm just telling you that it's in my DNA.
But again, how do you make that your own? That's always been a challenge. Like, how do you make something that you just don't identify with as your own? Bill Holmes teaches some really good stuff on how to make it your own, and so you're not talking about whatever it is. You just talk about something that you enjoy. But sometimes I have a hard time with that.
I hear you. Dave Walsh was in here a couple weeks ago, and we talked about that very thing and his True Tell method and stuff. And I've found a lot of that's helped me a great deal. The missing component for me was something that Walsh said was saying how you actually feel about the copy before you begin out loud in the room, like. And that was a missing step for me because I could totally get behind like, oh, I hate I'm trying to choose something, relish, but I love honey mustard, but this is a spot for relish, and for me to make the substitution without confessing that at the outset, felt forced and weird. I'm like, oh no, well listen, if relish is going to pay rent. I love relish.
Right.
And figuring out that, but then the money read is going to creep in versus the true authentic if I want to make a better hot
dog. And that's a huge challenge. You work on that, right? And sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. I remember I was working out with Kelly at the Voicecaster, and there was a kitty litter commercial that we were practicing with. She turns on the microphone, and in this one booth, there's a huge feedback factor, so the microphone's really low. So it's like, you kind of hear her little voice in the speaker. She's like, "You don't like cats, do you?" Well, I'm like, "No, I hate cats." She goes, "Yeah, I can tell."
Wow.
Because it was about kitty litter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was that shining moment. And this was probably 3 years ago, and I will never forget it, that we all have those amazing words or things moments.
Yes.
She called bullshit on me, which I love, by the way. I will do that to people in the booth as well.
Yeah.
I'll say I didn't believe you. Good, but I didn't believe you.
Yeah.
I love that because it reminded me to be aware of what my sentiments were on any given piece of copy.
Yeah.
Because there could be a skew. You know what I mean? That is in there, and the heart tells what the heart feels.
Right.
And that's a big challenge.
The mic hears everything, and opinion, certainly opinion. And
or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah.
But there's and the converse is true. When I get a piece of copy for a product or a service or even if it's like if I'm voice matching a celebrity that I really love. Mm-hmm. And not only know I can do really well, but love the guy's work. And it's just an honor to participate in it.
Yeah.
I love that for those moments from whenever you're ready to, that was great. I am Batman. Mm-hmm. I am Michael Keaton there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get to inhabit in that space, and it's one of the most satisfying parts of this job.
So I'll go back to what we were talking about with Gold Rush.
Yeah.
In this day and age, and I'm trying to censor where I take this, but, first and foremost, yeah, it's a craft, but it is a business.
Yes.
And if you want to do this as a hobby, have at it and stay in the hobbyist realm. But if you really want to thrive in it, it is a business. And going as deep as we are right now in these, what does copy mean? People that come up to you and say, "Hey, I was hoping maybe you could work with me because I've been told I have a really good voice." Mm-hmm. They say I have a really good sound. I'm a daydream breaker, man. I'll be like, that's terrific. And I'll steer them away. I'll be like, you should probably read a couple of books. And I'll give them some references of books to read on voice acting and voiceovers and stuff. Because if you think it's just about your radio DJ voice, you're wasting everybody's time, no less than your own.
No less than your own.
It is
That's
a business. So a lot, back in 2000. I don't know, maybe 2012, I think, was when we all got hit with the Voice 123 stuff, the Voices.com stuff, the commoditizing of voice acting, right?
Yeah.
And it created a lot of hobbyists out there. And in my opinion, it's fine to go after it, but you've really got to have a drive for it. You've got to really mean it. That said, I was just talking about this with another friend. Hobbyists could ultimately hurt and kill our industry because there's some people that are decent enough to get the work done, to drive rates down and stuff like that. But the other part of it, I'm going to get a little philosophical because it's been kind of a philosophical couple years for me. The beauty to me is there's so much work here.
Yeah.
So much. You can't, there's IVR, which is telephone.
Yeah.
Voice answering. Some people, that's what they do.
That's how I started.
Audiobooks.
Yep.
I personally don't love doing audiobooks. They're a ton of work.
Yes.
And again, it's one of those where they've commoditized it. And your ego can tell you, yeah, I do audiobooks, but if you're going to make $1,200 on 40 hours worth of work and never see another penny,
right?
And maybe more, especially your first couple books,
boy,
everybody's got to pay their dues, and I think you should. But if you're looking to make a living at it, you really need to understand your value and your net worth.
Yeah.
But ADR and looping, right? We talked about that.
That's right.
Everybody says you can't get into that. Well, anybody can if you focus on it.
People do it, and if you, like you say, if you have a skill set for it and you train and you find the right people, I that whole idea of no one can or you can't, that it's an impenetrable barrier. I'm like that. I shut my mouth and point at someone like they stole a cookie out of a jar.
Yeah.
There's a guy over there doing it, and they keep making movies, and they make a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I sure hear a lot of crowd noises, and you can't tell me that those guys are that busy every single day.
There's commercial stuff. There's regional commercial. There's local commercial. There's national commercial. There's international commercial. There's web. There's you just can't stop. Corporate e-learning.
That's right.
Educational stuff. There are so many facets of this. So when you're comparing yourself to the guy who's doing promo, whoever that is. I mean, I personally have gone after promo. I've done some promo. I haven't done nearly as much promo as I'd like. But again, it was one of those where, well, you'll never make it in that. Well, but at least let me try.
Right.
I tell people it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. And it's being sold as that. I don't know whether you feel that, but I think with the Voice 123s, I think with the Voices.coms, I think with the commoditizing, people are selling this as a get-rich-quick kind of scheme. And it's not. If you want to make a living out of this, you've got to really find what makes you happy in it. Because there's so many wonderful, amazing places. And every time you turn around, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know people did that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, whether for you.
I feel my perspective on it is a little bit different, but I share that concern. I remember because I came in as Voice Bank became a thing.
Yeah.
And I got into the market in Chicago, and I benefited from Voice Bank because while I had a lot of success in Detroit doing automotive, when the Voice Bank copy started to crack open and things, and the guys who had sort of had it locked up were like, what is this? Well, how come all of a sudden guys all over the place are taking this work? What I tell my students is, if you want to learn this, the only way for you to learn it is to do it. Mm-hmm. And if you want to drop the $400 at Voices123 or Voices.com and start auditioning and get in the game, you are welcome to. But don't look at that as an end in itself. If you want to do this work,
don't get me wrong. When you are looking to experience it, any port in a storm. You know what I mean? You've got to learn somehow. ACX is a tremendous vehicle for people who want to do that stuff.
Sure.
Right?
However.
But, when people ask me, because I'll never forget when Terry Apples, gave the first class, we talked about how much it would cost to get involved in it. No less, and tell me if you agree or disagree with this, but if you're going to be serious about, and I mean serious about this, you're going to spend $10,000.
Yeah.
Demos, lessons.
Yep. Certainly. And I remember the first time I heard a number associated with actually doing it, and it was Nancy Wolfson said something to the effect of like probably close to $5,000 for starters.
Yeah.
And and everyone in the audience was like, and you go, well, yeah, but if you're going to become a doctor, how much are you spending on?
Absolutely.
If you're going to become, if you're going to be a craftsman or a craftsman, if you're going to be,
if you're going to be a craftsman, I mean, just think about the tools that you buy
and the skills.
I mean, a router and whatever else, and your licensing and your contract, whatever it is.
Right. It's not just it's not just an Apogee mic and GarageBand, and you can audition and stuff, but The folks who say I can just record my auditions on my iPhone and send that in, I'm like, yeah, you can, but you're also going to be competing against someone who recorded it in their home studio on a Neumann, on a baby Neumann, and you can compete against them. So good luck. But if their read is terrible, then awesome. But chances are the person with a Neumann isn't giving you a really horrible read.
I get excited when somebody shows passion about it.
Yes.
And they're there. And here's another thing that being over at VoiceCaster really helps me with. I see some of the people that took some of the classes, and they come in and they're green, but they're good. And I love to see their eyes open up. I was going to bring this up. Like, do you remember your first studio when you walked in and actually got to do it. I think most of us do. I remember what mine was.
Where was it? Come back to it.
I will. I love seeing people that are like, wow, I'm actually here. I'm actually auditioning. And those are the people that I root for every time because there's a joy in it.
Yeah.
And man, it's cool.
Yeah.
Don't you get right?
Every time I step onto the property every one of these places in this town has that feeling. And they did in Chicago too. And Joby Cerny's place, it's just, you see the cassettes and it still smells faintly like cigarette smoke that they used to smoke in the 70s. And you know that, these are the guys who built this place.
That's a great description because I can smell the smoke.
Yeah, and it's at Voicecaster. It's one of the things I love about Voicecaster, just with the cassette, with the reel-to-reels on the wall, and the names of the people. And I know that if you played those things, you would recognize every single one of those voices.
Oh, the wall. Oh. Next time you're in, remind me to show you the back. There are names every time. There are thousands of them back there, but there are names back there that I'm like, there was an Edward R. Murrow. Right, and I almost I looked at that wall. I look at that wall, I don't know, a few times a month, and names keep popping out. That I'm like, well, I didn't know we had their tape. Well, yeah. These are the pioneers of it all. It's
pioneers,
pretty cool,
and it's tangible because you know that they handed that tape to someone, and they said, "Well, here's my tape," and then they can put that up and.
Was that your Edward R. Murrow?
No, that was my. It was a bad impression of a. Well, let's see who. Well, here's Connery. I just wanted to drop off my tape. Huh?
If you wouldn't mind, Miss Moneypenny, I've got a little tape, and it's going to self-destruct on you, my love.
I love everybody's different take on different people. Is it like it's one of my side fascinations? Like, do you know Jeff Bottoms? Have you seen Jeff come by?
Yeah.
His he does a Liam Neeson. We both do Liam Neesons, but both of our Liam Neesons are different. And my Liam Neeson is buried in the back of my throat and sort of in the resonant. And his resonant is a little bit deeper. And it's like the bits that he says. You know what I mean?
So it's funny because Saturday Night Live is probably the catalyst for people's impressions of anyone.
Yeah.
Right? And what turns out for me, because I don't really pick up Piet Michael.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, Piet's incredible.
That's talent.
Yeah.
I love that guy. He can inherently dissect that voice, whoever it is, and do it well.
Yeah.
And do it accurately. By the time I get to it, I'm doing a characterization of somebody else who has been doing it from somebody else. Like the Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of thing. They are just an Arnold. I couldn't really do an Arnold, but, all of a sudden I'm mimicking three people before.
You're doing
them.
Kevin Nealon's bad version of it.
Right.
Yeah. It's that whole thing, the copy of a copy aspect of it is really fun.
It's insane. But that's what brings it to light for us, I think.
I agree.
So where was your first microphone?
Oh, man.
You stepped up and
the first one that made me feel like it was. Well, there was the home space of Audiocom in Toledo, but I was a producer there first. Mm-hmm. So whenever I would go on the microphone, it was never it wasn't a big deal. It was go in there and screw around. We would record haiku. We were doing big long industrial copy, and to break it up and to give my primary voice talent a break, I would write stupid sketch comedy, just bits, and have him record that.
Microphone, bare wire.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. And he would just break, and we'd howl, and it was the best day because we were producing something, and we weren't stuck, coding. But the one that I remember, the old school, was when I got to go to Ron Rose in Detroit, and I'd booked. Oh, come on. Something for an automotive company. It probably was an industrial the first time I was at Ron Rose, but that was a big deal. That was a big deal because of the age of it and because of the smoke and because of the legendariness of that particular studio.
Yeah.
Here, it was Warner Brothers ADR3. ADR3 that's my room. And the 1 year anniversary of being in Los Angeles, I booked Sylvester Stallone voice match to do all of his exertions for the film Bullet to the Head.
Wow.
And we did it in ADR 3, and it was my birthday.
Oh, wow.
And it was probably one of the most important sessions that I've had, because I learned, not only did I learn how to do exertions from the ADR director, but I got to, that usually when I go to Warner Brothers for ADR, that's the space I'm in. And when I did ADR for my on-camera work in Batman versus Superman, cut to 3 years later, and I'm doing ADR for myself.
That's cool, right?
That's
beyond cool.
That's the dream, you know? It's like to be able, it's awesome to be able to do impressions of guys and to cover them in a movie and to be able to participate and tell them the story. But then to be able to do the TV version, so the censored, like, clean up my language from the feature, and Zack Snyder sitting on a couch behind me giving me redirects.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, to me, because I know that, like, on Unforgiven, Clint had a barbell set up in the exact same space.
So I will.
That's mine.
I'll share to that point.
Yeah.
About ADR and looping, about how people tell you can't do things. Yeah. I was at a studio that shall remain nameless, and I was doing an audition, and I saw some guy with this football jacket, with the leather sleeves, like a varsity jacket, but it had blah, blah, looping group. And I wanted to ask him a question. I want to say, hey, I noticed you're in X, Y. I don't even remember the name of the looping group.
Yeah.
And I have a good friend of mine, Mark Comstock. He was actually at this audition as well. He and I didn't really know each other well back then. But he remembers the story. I waited and waited for this guy because he was talking to the owner of the audition house.
Okay.
Blah, 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 blah. And I'm waiting patiently. So I walked up to the guy. I said, hey, I noticed you're with this group. I'm really curious about it. I'm really interested in it. Is there anything you can tell me? He goes, yeah, well, it's really hard to get into. And to be honest with you, we're really kind of protective about, sharing the space with it. It's just kind of hard. And that's all he would tell me. That was it. I was like, well, thanks a lot, douchebag, in my head. I'm like, well, I mean, and I try to approach people in a very honorable, hey, man, I'd like to learn from you.
Right.
Because we can all learn from each other. We can be as cocky as we want and act like we own the world, like young actors do, like I was when I was 22 and lying about everything. I got a manager. I'm working on an indie, man. I just got hired on an indie. But that was one of those moments that I said, well, fuck this guy. I'm going to figure this out. And it took 9 years, a lot of homework. I don't want to inundate the person that gave me the inroad. Fuck it. Johnny Gitcomb. I love him. He is one of the few people out there that was doing any kind of workshop on stage with ADR and looping and understanding it. And through some time, I actually got my first gig with him for looping.
Yeah.
And I now get to do it with a couple of different groups. Yeah. And no, it's not easy to get into, and the work is, I don't make my living at it.
Right.
But anybody can do it if you just focus on it and it's what you want to do. I know a couple of people that, like I know Layla Berzins. She was doing internet videos. And now she's doing animation stuff. Piet Michael, he was doing his impersonations, and now he's on Mad TV.
Right.
These are people that are passionate about what they do, and I think that's the bottom line. They're just super passionate people, and they mean what they say, and there's opportunity for them. I don't know. I just want to be really inspirational with this conversation more than anything. There's a ton of naysayers out there.
There are,
and you'll meet them every day.
Yeah, I had an entire community of them, and I had to keep moving until I finally got to a place where everybody around you is like, we're all trying to figure it out, man.
So I've got like 5 years maybe of ADR and looping under my belt, which is nothing for a guy my age. It's nothing compared to the Paul Papes of the world, and
Sure.
All the other guys, and yourself included in that mix. I get giddy when I walk onto Warner Brothers and I see the plaques by the sound stages.
Oh, man.
When I go over to Fox Studios, I'm like, shit, I'm on Fox lot. I'm like a kid. And I never take that for granted.
Ever.
And I still send thank you notes to the because I can't believe that I had a lifetime of doing something different, and I finally get to do this stuff.
Yeah. Man, I got to do a bit on the Thundermans for Nickelodeon, right?
Yeah.
On-camera bit.
Yeah.
3-line co-star, super fun. Got to come to the table read, and then did the wardrobe, and then we shot that day, and the guy who plays the father in the show is an actor named Chris Tallman. And he's a comedy sports guy, really funny, and just got a wonderful gig.
Yeah.
And welcomed me in with open arms, and just made me feel comfortable. We know a lot of the same people and became friends on Facebook and everything. It was just a really generous experience.
So it's a legitimate friendship then.
Legitimate friendship.
If it's on Facebook.
Yeah, now that's right. It's completely legitimate. And he just accepted my LinkedIn the other day.
Nice.
But the point was, we were on stage 25 at Paramount, and I walked through underneath the bleachers and was like, this looks familiar to me. And 20 some odd years ago, I was out here in 1991 for a semester, and we went to go see a taping of Cheers. And It was that stage.
Wow.
And so to be able to walk on that set and perform on that set, and where Cheers shot and where Frasier shot, and now to be part of a storytelling thing where Bosom Buddies shot. Like it goes beyond fandom in that way, of this feeling of like, these are the things that I more than dreamed or fantasized, but felt I needed to be a part of in one way or another.
So you get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, man.
It is that passion, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is. You asked, like, what made me come back to it, just like you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, your dream slowly dies on the vine, but you realize, I got to tell you, I'm not happy answering to the man. I mean, we live, it's Hollywood, and, it's the man.
There's always a man. There's always the man in one way or the other, but
we get to do what we love, and we get to do it passionately. And there are lean years. Maybe not for you, but compared to the corporate America where you know what you're making every year, but
That's
you're
right.
still, at the end of the day, you're in your booth in your pajamas at home, and you're somehow making it work, and opportunities are coming, and there's so many of them out there.
That's it.
Yeah. So
when those opportunities are coming, it just that. I say often, when I got to Los Angeles, I had to in Chicago, I learned this lesson too, because it was a bigger game than what I had been in before. But I had to redefine my notion of what success was. Success isn't necessarily booking the job. Success is getting the second call. Success is being invited back to the casting director's office. Success is getting an audition in the first place, or getting a stream of copy. And success is having, just being able to pursue the work,
It's so wax on, wax off. I started playing guitar about 2 years ago. Much, because it was one of those things where I just never did it. I tried it, never stuck with it. And this time I was determined. You can look at things that way. Obviously you have to book. You have to make money doing it in order for you to make common sense out of it.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. There are people out there that you wonder why they're still at it, because they're not really working.
Yeah.
But if they love it, I'm not going to judge you.
Right.
You know what I mean? For me, it is business. If I wasn't able to put food on my table, pay my mortgage, I would go back to doing what I had to do.
Yeah.
So I'm very blessed that way. I don't know where I was going with this, but I just, the wax on, wax off.
Yeah.
You look back, and again, you don't know what you don't know. You can't know what you don't know.
Right.
And when you can look at things in hindsight, when you can look at things in retrospect and say, hey, you know what? I made it happen back then, but boy, am I much better now. The much better now, the walking in to the booth, being comfortable and not nervous.
Right.
Only time is going to let that happen for you.
That's right.
And you're going to, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what business you're in, there's going to be some hot shot that walks in that's got something that everybody is saying, oh my God, this is our next star. You're like, well, what the fuck has this guy got that I don't have? It's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
But the reality is, the opportunities are there. You just got to stick with it. You got to hang in, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look yourself in the mirror and keep telling you.
I don't do that anymore.
You don't do yourself in the mirror?
No, I'm still too old for that shit.
I'm still looking in the mirror a little bit, giving me an affirmation from time to time.
Yeah.
But only really when it's lean. That when I need it, when it's kind of like
I will sell a home today.
It's right. But I mean, I feel like it's what I love about this particular conversation, and this I mentioned to you before we were rolling or while we were rolling, is just how much I love this space. Because we are all independent contractors with our own set of experiences prior to when we got into this milieu, and bouncing around and seeing different things and sharing those things and finding these universal truths.
So to that point,
yeah,
I don't say something nice or don't say something no. The voiceover community has been, I don't think there's another community like it. I mean, I was in a field where people were nurses and in the nursing community, and it's a different breed of people, and they're very kind and giving.
Yeah.
But I don't think in the acting world, in the Hollywood world, I don't think there's a support network like there is in the voiceover community.
Yeah.
People are encouraging each other. We root for each other. Many of us root for each other.
Yeah.
We really hope, that if someone's going to book it, and if it's not me, I want it to be my friend.
Yeah.
I don't think the on-camera is that way. I think the on-camera community is a much different beast. It's got a pretense to it. It's got a lot more bullshit to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, in the voiceover community, I imagine you have the same experience. When I meet somebody and I'm friendly with them, you can go out and you can have a beer, you can have a coffee with them.
Yep.
That's going to happen a lot more here.
Yeah.
It's just really a supportive, phenomenal group of folks.
I agree. I 100% agree. One of the things that inspired me to do this show was I'm surprised there's emotion on it, and I'm not at the same time. Not surprised there's emotion on it, because it was one of the most generous things I'd ever seen an actor do for another actor. We were sitting in the lobby at CESD waiting to go in, and I had already read, but Fred came in, and when Fred Tatasciore walks in, it's always delightful.
Yeah. And
Fred sat down, and there was another actor in there who was completely beside himself because he was a super fan of
Fred.
Yeah. And of not just of him, but also animation and the world. And here's a guy who is doing it. And the one of the great things about that moment was Fred was like, oh, well, what are you reading? And he was like, well, I'm looking at this. And there was another girl who was in there reading something completely different, maybe like a late teen. And she was like, well, I have a question about this thing. And Fred was like, well, let's look at it. And he taught a class. Like, he just taught a class about what his process was. I do this thing. And, well, so you can tell that I look at this drawing and you see he's this and this and this. And I might take him into this place. But you could also take him into this place. And that's completely legitimate. And here he was giving like this sort of sharing his process with someone who was nervous and getting ready to go into the booth, and giving them the confidence to go, the decision process that you're in, it's okay. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to let all the mystery about what you're about to experience get in the way of what you're supposed to do, which is just go in there and play.
So permission has been the kind of a, I don't know whether it was because I just did a workshop over at K&K. But, give yourself permission, and it's hard to let go. It's hard to give yourself that permission because you're censoring what everybody's thinking of you.
Yeah.
there was I'm going to tell a Fred Tatasciore story. There was a woman that came in to VoiceCaster. I know it sounds like I'm there all the time. I'm not there very often. But I was in there, and Fred was in the lobby. I'm getting ready. He does a lot of auditions there. Yeah. His own. He brings them in.
I know he does a lot. He's got the star there. That's my goal is to eventually book a VO and go book.
Me too, man. Me too. Yeah. So he was sitting in the lobby, and she's like, yeah, she was coming in, I'm really interested in animation. And, and Fred's like, she didn't know who it was. Fred's like, oh, great, man. That's great. The Fred kind of thing. That's the worst Fred Tatasciore impression in the history of mankind. But yeah, he's just engaging and so I wrote his name down on a piece of paper. And I said to the woman in front of him, I said, I want you to go home and I want you to Google this name. I said, because that's who you're talking to. And hopefully you'll be inspired by the conversation that you had today. I don't know whatever happened to her because she didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you're too kind, man. It's like, but I think she came back actually and she did a demo or was working on getting a demo done over there. That's the other thing. You don't know who you're talking to.
You don't know who you're talking to here. You never know. And
I can't tell you how many times people come in that I really don't. Because I'm not in every genre, right? I don't do a lot of animation. They come in and I'll Google some people. I'm like, holy shit, what an IMDb on them.
Right.
You've got a hell of an IMDb.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's building, I know. It's just fun.
Just you can learn from everybody. And there's so many people that are willing to do what you're saying. They're willing to impart their experience.
I feel like my talent is mine. Mm-hmm. Whether it's, I'm Catholic, it's a gift, but it's also, I'm the steward of it.
Yeah.
But everything that got me to where I am, I owe to Bo Berdal, Oliver at CESD, and Samit and Pat and Kathy and Vinny and David and Deidre and everybody over there. And then everybody at my agency prior over at Innovative. And then the people at Innovative in Chicago. And everybody who gave me a piece of copy.
Yeah.
And then gave me a redirect. Everything I've booked from working with you and working with Elaine and working over at the Kalmansons, like so from that standpoint, I own my skill set, but I don't own the network that created it or that knowledge that came from another place.
Sure.
And I feel called to share that because if you want to do that work, here's this wellspring. We need them. Mm-hmm. We need you to get out there.
So one of the things that I do to that point, like people are like, yeah, I'm really interested in blah, blah, blah. I want to expand. I will now give people homework. If they want to demonstrate to me that they're really interested, because I've done private coaching and stuff like that. I don't go after that a lot. If they want me to help, they have to demonstrate that they really want it. And I will give homework because there are a lot of people out there that'll be like, yeah, what should I do? And then we spin our wheels telling people, well, if you want to do it, this is how I can only tell people what I've done.
Right.
But now I give them homework. And if they don't do the homework of, writing down where they fit, writing down their voice style, making sure that they know where they fit and these kinds of, if they don't do that, it's going to die on the vine. Yeah. Because you got to be real. You got to be serious about it. That's like anything you do.
Like anything you do.
Because I can't be a race car driver.
Man, I could talk to you for a whole nother hour. I would love to, but our time is quickly running to a close. How can people find you on social media and those places? And
they can pretty much just Google Andrew Heyl, Heyl. I have a website, andrewheyl.com.
You have a small podcast in there too that you recorded.
I did. I was trying. It's a lot of work, man.
It is.
I was trying to. I had some really good interviews, and I was doing it about people in the industry, all sorts, cool. Composers, people that did ADR and looping, copywriters. But it just became a lot. So I think I've taken that part down.
Okay.
I'm leaving it to you to do the podcast.
All right. Well, I will grab the torch and keep it going. But
Please do.
Dude, I can't tell you how much I appreciate
Thanks for letting me just talk your ear off.
Dude,
man.
This was great. I certainly hope that our listeners have found an ace they can keep and can come back to this because there's a lot of really great stuff.
I think we're all just trying to do what we're passionate about. That's the bottom line.
That's all it takes.
They wouldn't be listening to this if they weren't.
That's true.
So
stay passionate and hungry and
don't take all of Kip's work away from him. He needs the money. He's got a kid.
I do. I'm going to age out of it. It's part of it. You age out and you move on to other things. But, I'm excited to see where this journey takes you.
And I'm going to leave you with this.
Yep.
I'm going to disagree with that. With the aging out part. There's so much work out there. Jack Angel comes in. I mean, there are people that come in and they book. They're just people that just, it's out there. The work is out there. The opportunities are out there. Go
get them.
That's all I got.
Awesome.
Love
Andrew,
you, man.
Love you too. Thank you so much for coming in.
Cool, brother.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on All Over Voiceover with Kip VH. Please take a moment to review the show and let other folks know what you thought. And if you dug it, please subscribe. Follow the show on Twitter at AllOverVO and check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/AllOverVO with Kip VH. That's it for this time. You get what you get and don't get upset. Claim victory and depart the field.